there is a new report on crypto asset evaluation and trends in the Korean market. Joining us to discuss is Matrixport's Head of Research and Strategy, Markus Thielen. Welcome.
Good morning.
Hi, Markus. Okay, great topic. I feel like this is an undercover topic because Korea is such an important retail market. So what are you seeing in terms of specific altcoins? We did a segment a while ago about, XRP trade surging in Korea, but I know that that's just like the tip of the iceberg and there's so much other action. So tell us about some of the tokens you're seeing that are surging on the Korean market. And I imagine this is largely Upbit, right, which is the largest exchange in Korea.
Yeah, that's correct. Upbit has around like 80% market share, so it's really like the number 1 exchange to monitor. And I think the one thing to really keep in mind is that the Bitcoin dominance has really gone, up to levels that we have seen only like last year. So it's around like 48% now Bitcoin dominance, and we think the dominance is going to peak out here. And and as a result, you should really look into like alternative coins, and especially because the sentiment has really like improved now, I think, across the board. So, and I think the interesting aspect with Korea is that Bitcoin itself maybe only like a top 5 coin, versus Ethereum is hardly a top 10 coin, versus like on all the other major exchanges, those two coins really trade, have the highest volume, versus in Korea, other tokens really take over. And like every coin or every day, there's a different coin that is really, I guess, finding the imagination of the retail investors there. There's a coin called Mass Vehicle Ledger that's really, putting driver's license or driver's passports on the blockchain and focusing on all sorts of like, mobility. Serum is like the old Solana empowered exchange has really gained some strength. Polymesh, which is a security token. Binance has become a node validator. So this started to spike, and there's a token called IQYKey, which is an encyclopedia. It uses the OpenAI and ChatGPT, so a lot of name dropping here. But there was at one point, the token with the largest volume. We have, of course, Arbitrum, which was in the news, for various reasons. Hi-Fi Finance, which is a lending and borrowing protocol. It's trying, to also do this with NFTs, so not just with stablecoins or anything else. So every day there's something new happening, and I think we know from history, like early in February this year, when the Aptos team went on a global, and they realized as well that they joined at a hackathon in Korea. Up with in English and in Korean, there are a lot of VC money trying also to help various projects. And as you said earlier, we have seen this also in 2017, end of 2017, in the last bull market, when basically Ripple was accounted for 50% of all the volume in Ripple was really traded in Korea. So we really have seen that the Korean market has been quite strong during times like those.
Yeah, so actually, I was referring to a more recent surge of XRP, but you're right, it did also happen back then. But so can you explain a little bit, or do you know, like, what's going on behind the scenes there? Like, what is propelling a different altcoin every day? I mean, is it something to do with, is it social media? Like, what is it? Like, how is that happening?
Well, the Korean market itself is very focused on gaming, e-commerce or esports, and I think people are really like jumping a lot of those those tokens that are highly marketed. And as I was saying earlier, the Aptos team, of course, they came out of Meta, and they were really well VC funded, but here the plan was to provide not only like the white paper in English but also in Korean, and really kind of push this through the various hackathons and other blockchain events. And this is really, I think, a well marketed market really. And I think people are a little bit bored with Ethereum. It takes like so long until there's a new upgrade happening, versus like all these other stories where you have like a maybe like a decent sized market cap, but of course a low float, so the tokens can be easily pushed around. And what we have seen the last, I guess, like 2-3 weeks, a lot of the meme coins overall have regained more interest, and I think we're seeing this also in Korea.
So, I mean, XRP obviously is a globally well-known token, but other than that, like, how much does the success of these tokens translate outside of Korea? I mean, do they tend to just go sort of like really viral on Upbit in Korea and then that's it? Or do you actually see like them becoming big globally and it affecting the price globally?
Well, of course, it depends, right? And I think this is really the key to really monitor, but because the Aptos, and again, to talk about Aptos, but Aptos really peaked out, at like $19 when really the hackathon, started in Korea. And it was really this 4 weeks into the event, there was the push-up. But I think right now we're seeing like less, I guess, a global interest in a lot of those tokens that are being actively traded in Korea, because there's just so much focus on Bitcoin. But as I was saying earlier, that the Bitcoin dominance is now at 48%, which is the same level where it peaked out last year. So I think it's worth, warranted to look into some of those like smaller coins. And we came up with like a kind of like a 6-step process to kind of like evaluate and find, those tokens go up like times. And I think we're hearing like really actively looking for those tokens then can go up multiple points. It's not really protect your assets, put it into stablecoin. It's rather what can go up 2-3 times, and how do we find and how do we risk manage those positions.
Yeah, you bring up stablecoins, so I just want to bring that up because Glassnode data finds that the number of stablecoins held in addresses tied to centralized exchanges extended its decline to reach the lowest since May 2021. Now, that's a sign of increasing investor aversion to risk. How do you factor that in, given that you just made the argument about stablecoins?
Yeah, I think there are 2 ways to interpret this, right? So number one, there is less really money coming into the ecosystem, and the money within the ecosystem is being like channeled around. And of course, we all know that that 2 of the 3 key financial institutions that are responsible for the on-ramp from fiat into crypto have really run into regulatory pressure. And so we don't see a lot of new money coming into the ecosystem, and of course there has been the big news where Circle had like I think $3.3 billion deposited with the Silicon Valley Bank, and the USDC depegged, and there was this worry, and I think we have seen more money leaving USDC, more money leaving other stable coins, everything really except USDT, really moving into more the I guess the safer assets, especially like Bitcoin. And I think this has been a big driver. We talked about this, 2 months ago, but this probably has run its course now again, because we are like in the high of the dominance here. But there's no new money coming into the ecosystem, and this really like hurts, overall the flows in the system.
Yeah, you said that money is not coming in, but at the same time, you have said that Bitcoin prices could finish the year around 45,000. How do you, what's your thesis? Why are you saying that when you're also saying that money is not coming in? Or are you specifically talking about stablecoins then?
No, but I think there are various aspects, right? So our big call for this year was that inflation is going to come down materially. Probably like to the 2% range in the US, and therefore the central bank doesn't have to hike interest rates anymore and become a bit more dovish. And this is going to help like all risk assets, and I think this is really like playing out. And I think while we don't see anything happening on the on-ramp yet, but I think it was like enough money within the ecosystem because there were hardly any sellers. But of course, once we got back to like 30,000, there were more news about some miners taking profit. Some dormant whales suddenly came back and were moving Bitcoin that have not been moved for like 10 plus years. But I think we're going to see this trend all year, really, that inflation is going to come in lower. There is more tailwind from the central bank, and I think we have to also imagine a little bit what might happen, because something will happen. And I think there is still a lot of interest from people within cryptos. Hardly anybody would have really expected we would be at 30,000 and having all this interest compared to like 6 months ago. So I think something will happen. We hear already from various jurisdictions that they want to become friendly. I think the UK looks very good. I think there the government seems to be also very active, and it's a large financial market. So I wouldn't be surprised if if some of these, on-ramps, companies that we have seen in the US being like impaired by the banking crisis, that a new one is going to surface where people gain trust and where people are going to put more money into the system.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that.
I still really expect bullish. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's interesting you say that because we were talking about South Korea, and the appetite of South Korean retail investors is perhaps greater than, let's say, the investors in UK, and that's why it's going to be interesting whether the UK trying to make itself a crypto hub with friendly regulations can actually give confidence to the retail investors there and then make the market move in that direction. We appreciate you joining us. That was, of course, Matrixport's Head of Research and Strategy, Markus Thielen. Thanks so much, Markus. Thanks so much for coming on.